Hello and welcome to Unit 7, Lesson number 3. This is Describing Data, Range, and Quartiles. We're going to start this lesson with a warm-up from the stuff that we did in our last lesson, which bleeds into what we're going to be looking at today. So last lesson we looked at mean, median, mode, and range. So we're going to just do a couple of these examples. So example 1 is right here. I'm going to get you guys to do the most of this work, but I'll just sort of read the question, give you some time to work it out, and then I'll solve it too. First example is the data set shows the number of hours spent using technology each week by a group of 10 students. Calculate the mean, median, and mode for the data set. So there's our data set, 10, 18, 17, etc. I've already taken the, I've already rewritten the data set in order from smallest to largest. So we're going to calculate the mean, the median, and the mode. So why don't you hit pause in the video and then calculate for this example mean, median, and mode. When you've got those three answers, come back and then I'll solve it also so you can see if your answers are correct. So pause it now, find mean, median, and mode, and then come on back when you're done and we'll see how you did. Okay, you're back. Let's get a look. So the mean, as we know, is our average. It means we add up everything that's there and then we divide it by the number of data points that are there. So I'm just going to add these up. We've got 4 plus 9 plus 10 plus 10 plus 11 plus 17 plus 18 plus 21 plus 23 and plus 25. So that equals 148. That is our total. And how many values did we have there? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so that's 10 values. So we're going to do some division. That's 148 divided by 10, and that's going to give us a mean of 14.8. That's like our average amount of hours spent using technology each week. The median is our middle value. So if we count through, we can figure that out. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so our median value is going to be a combination of these. So as we know, if we have an even number of terms, our middle two values are both going to be the fifth term, so to speak. So we are going to combine those. So 17 plus 11, and we're going to divide that by 2. So that's going to give us 28 divided by 2. So our median would then be 14. And lastly, mode, that's the one where we talk about which one is showing up most often. I believe the only value in that group to repeat is 10. So the mode is going to be 10 with 2 instances showing up. So there's our first review question finished. Let's have a look at the second example. And same thing, I'm going to let you guys work on it on your own, but let's read it together. The math test scores had a range of 34. Write an example of a possible highest and lowest score that would suit this range. So here we have just an instance where we want to have a range of 34. So the range, again, is the smallest and largest data points in the set. And we want those to have a range of 34. So again, hit pause here, write down a couple of highest and lowest scores that will work for you. And when you're done, come on back and we'll see how you did. Okay, so you've come back, you've got some in here. Maybe the simplest way to start it is to just say, all right, imagine you had 100 as your highest score, and then your lowest score would then be 34 less than that. So highest would be 66, highest would be 100, the lowest then might be 66. Between them, there is a difference of 34. So the way that I did this, of course, is to take 100 and then subtract 34 from it. That gives you your 66. Another set might be like, what if we had 50 was our highest mark? Well, then you could subtract 34 from that to find out what your lowest value would be, and it would be 16. Obviously, there's lots of different pairs of numbers that are going to be 34 values or digits apart. So lots of right answers here, but I just did 2 right there real quick. All right, example number 3. On the latest science quiz, 10 students scored 85%, 5 students scored 90%, and 3 students scored 100%. What was the mean score on the test? All right, so this is another mean where you're going to add up all of the scores and then divide it by the number of scores. So as I've already done for you here, there were 18 students here that were done, or rather 18 students who wrote this quiz. So again, why don't you hit pause, figure out what the mean is, and when you're done, come back, and we'll see how you did. Okay, you're back. So I'm going to do some sort of cheating adding here. I know that 10 students scored 85%. So we had 10 students times 85 plus 5 students who scored 90 plus however many students scored, so 3 students who scored 100. So 3 students who scored 100, and we are going to divide all of that by 18 when we're all done. So I'm just going to tally that up. So that's 10 times 85 plus 5 times 90 plus 3 times 100, and that gives us 1,600 total. We're going to divide that by the 18 students, and then we will get our average or mean. Divide that by 18, so that comes to 88.88, repeating. 88.89 if we're rounding it, so approximately 88.9%. So therefore the mean is 88.89%. That's approximate, of course, because we did some rounding, but there you go. All right, this last one is a bit more challenging. The mean cost, so the average cost of the university education for 5 children was $8,000 per year. If the first 4 children paid $7,500, $8,100, $8,300, and $8,250, how much was the education for the 5th child? Okay, so again, in setup, we have 5 kids. We're trying to find the average cost of the university education. So I'm going to hit pause here. Give this one a try. Do your best. Kind of monkey around with it a little bit. And then if you figure it out or if you just eventually get stuck, just come on back and we're going to work through this one. So give it a try now and come on back when you're finished. Okay, you're back. This one, like I said, is a bit trickier because this time we actually happen to know the mean. We know the average was going to be 8,000 for all 5 kids. Normally, if we were going to calculate the average, we would add them all up and then divide by the number of values. So in this case, we know there's going to be 5 kids, and we're going to add them up. So the first one was 7,500. Second one was 8,100, 8,300, 8,250. And then I didn't leave much room for it, but then there's the 5th one, and the 5th one is actually the one we don't know. So right now we're just going to make it, whoops, I'll try to make that a little bit clearer. We're going to make that the x, the unknown. So again, if we're trying to solve for the unknown here, we first need to get away all the things that are happening to it. So of course it's being divided by 5, and then it's having 7,500, 8,100, 8,300, and 8,250 added to it. So we're going to undo all of those things. I think the first thing that we're going to do here, in order to get rid of that divide by 5, is to actually multiply both sides by 5. So that's going to give us on the left side, we have 8,000 times 5, so that will be 40,000. And over here, we multiplied by 5, so that's gotten rid of our denominator. We have 7,500 plus 8,100 plus 8,300 plus 8,250 plus x. So just to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to add those up. So that's 7,500 plus 8,100 plus 8,300 plus 8,250. So that equals 32,150. So in fact, maybe I'll just tidy that whole mess up there, make it just a little bit easier on myself and all of us. So 32,150 plus x. Again, that's our 5th unknown student, the amount that we paid for that 5th student. So now in order to isolate that x, we are going to subtract 32,150 from both sides. That's going to give us our final answer. So if we have our 40,000 and we subtract our 32,150, that leaves us with $7,850 as the amount paid for that 5th student, or the 5th child, I guess. So the 5th child costs $7,850. And there it is. So there's our warm-up questions. The warm-up questions, of course, are really meant to just sort of prime you for what's going to be happening in the way that we're using data sets. Today's lesson is on range and quartiles in general. So we are going to just do a little introduction and then start working through some actual questions here. So let's talk about quartiles. Quartiles is an interesting word, probably not heard it before, but quartiles is a way of distributing the entire range of data up into 4 equivalent pieces, so to speak, in terms of the distribution of values that we have. As it says in the lesson, if it helps you, we're talking about quartiles, you can think of quarters. There's 4 quarters in a dollar in the same way that there's 4 quartiles for each range. The median, one we've already been using, is kind of the one that rides right up the middle. As we know, that's the middle value, right? We count in from first and final value to the middle. That's the median. We would call that technically our quartile number 2, or Q2. The first quartile, or Q1, is the one that comes halfway between the first value and the median. The lower quartile, as it's called here. I'll probably just be calling it Q1 throughout. And then the upper quartile, so that would be halfway between the final value and the median. That's Q3. So again, the way that it's sort of written here can be a little bit confusing. Again, think of it as when you've got a distribution of all the values in a data set, which is the range. The median is the middle one. And then between the median and the first value, that's like the 1/4 mark, so to speak. That's where you put Q1. And then the 3/4 mark would be Q3, if that helps. Okay, so that's an introduction to what quartiles are. Let's have a quick look at this example before we stop this video. So in our first example here, we'll zoom in a little bit. We've got a data set. There's our data set is 7, 12, 15, 17, 21, 24, 25, 27, 29, 31, 33, 35, 37, 39, and 40. So if we look at this, in orange, I've calculated the median by, again, starting at each end and sort of counting in terms. So it happens that there's an odd number of terms, which means the median falls right in the middle, and that's going to be 27. That's the 8th term, so to speak, as you're going in both directions. Now, Q1 is halfway between those. So just to illustrate again how I did that, I'm just going to change up my color scheme here. So leaving out the median value, so I'm not including that one, I start here, so that's 1, 2, and 3, and then from the first value, 1, 2, and 3. So the 4th value there would be Q1, or the 1/4 mark, and that would be, as you can see, 17. And then we'll do that same thing in the other direction. So leaving out the median term, you've got 1, 2, and 3, and then you've got 1, 2, and 3, and then this one here is our Q3, or our upper quartile, and that one is 35. So that's just a quick introduction. Before we start working through these examples, let's hit a pause here just so you can gather your thoughts, and then we'll come back in the second half, or the next part of this video, and we'll talk about working through some examples. So we'll see you in the next part of this video.